guys, welcome back to my channel, Fruitphoria. Today I want to talk about 3 cooked foods that help me stay high raw. So maybe you want to reap the benefits of eating a mostly raw diet, but you do want to add some cooked food into your diet, or maybe you found that adding some certain cooked food makes you feel better than eating fully raw, or maybe during the winter time you kind of want to eat warmer foods. Whatever it may be, these 3 foods help me make about 50 to 80% of my diet be raw foods throughout the day. So the first thing I want to mention, number 1, is rice wraps. Rice wraps are fantastic because you can really cram as many greens and vegetables inside those wraps, and they tend to be very easy to digest. At least I find them to be very easy to digest. Rice wraps are also great because they're really easy to use. All you have to do is get the sheet wet, wrap the food up. It's also really cheap. It's easy to just have as one of the staples in your diet. So to give you an idea, something that I really like to put in my rice wraps is greens like kale or romaine or arugula or azuna. I really like to add avocado and cucumber and carrot and maybe make my own dipping sauce, and that right there is really good. That's perfect to satiate me. Okay, number 2 for me would have to be beans. It's a source of protein. They have a lot of fiber in it. They really satiate me. So one of my favorite things to do is to add some beans into a salad. So I'll have a variety of vegetables, maybe a little bit of fruit in it, and I'll throw in maybe like half a can of beans, or if I'm sharing with somebody, a whole can, or better yet, just make the beans from scratch. So when they're dry, just make it yourself. All you have to do is soak them and then cook them. It's a really easy process. The longest living cultures eat a lot of beans. Something that you could do is make your own hummus as a spread or a dip, or to add as a dressing. You could throw in some beans in a salad. There's just so many things that you could do with beans. And I find that beans just satiate me perfectly when I have a lot of fruit during the day and then at nighttime a lot of greens, and I like to have either beans in my salad or a potato in my salad. And another reason why I really like beans is because I would rather add beans, which are high in protein, but they tend to be lower in fat. So instead of adding oils or like too many nuts, even if they're raw, I feel better, less lethargic, more satiated when I'm having beans instead. Number 3 is going to be soups. And the reason why I really like soups is because, well, they're warm. So during the winter time and the late fall, when I'm really wanting to like warm myself up, making a big, healthy vegetable soup is the way to go. So I would recommend doing it low sodium. And if you're really craving salt, add celery, add a lot of greens. You could add a celery seed to it, herbs, and you don't really have to add any oil if you want like a kind of little bit, but it doesn't really require any oil. So you can make a really, really healthy vegetable soup, and there's also some nutrients that you can get access to that you may not get access on a fully raw diet that you could get in a vegetable soup. And another misconception I feel like is that people think that, oh, if it's in a soup, all the nutrients are going to be completely gone, which isn't necessarily true. You can even add greens like last second to the soup. That's what me and my boyfriend like to do. We like to throw in some kale and tomatoes last second. Sometimes we even add it to our dish, to our bowl of soup that's being served in, and it's enough to kind of make it more tender but not completely turn it into a mush where you're like, oh, what's the point of eating this? Like, what's the benefits I'm getting out of it? It's great, and I believe a really good soup has different layers of cookery to it. So some of it's, been sitting for a long time, some of it's just been added in like 15 minutes prior, some of it's just thrown in last second before served, some is added to in the bowl. Like, I like to add sprouts on top also of my soup. I find that to be really refreshing, and it's not just overwhelmingly heavy. The number 4, which I didn't say there was going to be number 4, but I can't help but add this in last second, and that's tea. I know tea isn't really an official food. It's kind of the same thing as soup. It keeps me really warm, and I find that when I'm feeling a little under the weather, tea really picks me up, whether it be a sore throat or feeling nauseous or needing a little bit of energy or needing to calm down a bit. There's just so many herbs out there that have so many great benefits to aid our ailments. And I remember when I was eating a fully raw diet, during the winter time, teas really saved my butt. When I wanted something warm, having a warm tea was just great to warm up my hands and to drink, and just to get that comfort, like with all the snow and when it was below 30 degrees. And yeah, so teas I find to be tremendously helpful. Okay, so rice wraps, beans, soup, and teas I think are very useful and delicious foods to add to a very high raw diet. And the reason why I suggest these foods is because if you don't have something to fall back on, and these are really helpful and these are really healthy things, so it's not like, oh, I'm not eating a fully raw diet, I failed. No, these foods are very healthy for you as well. And they're also giving you a lot of benefits and have a lot of nutrients in it. So having these foods to consume instead of something junky, when you're having like some really tough cravings, say that you may be craving, I don't know, potato chips or fries or candy or just pizza, hamburger, it's better to get in a habit of going to these healthy cooked foods rather than eating a really clean raw diet and then splurging on something really junky, or eating a really raw diet and then the bulk of it being like gourmet raw foods which have a lot of oil and salt in it, which I've been there too, where I'm like, I'm eating fully raw, but then I'll be eating more than I thought I was of gourmet raw foods and not feeling so good. So over the years, the past 7 years, I've been experimenting with a high raw diet and with many different kinds of ways to eat a vegan diet, and I found that eating a high raw diet, and then when I'm feeling like I want like something a little bit more, when I'm feeling just something wanting more different or wanting something more salty or fatty, instead of overeating raw fatty sources like avocados and nuts, eating like a sweet potato makes me feel better, or having a nice vegetable, a simple vegetable soup rather than eating like a Hail Mary raw food, pure coconut oil. I love Hail Marys, but they don't make me feel so good when I eat the whole thing, which I know a lot of people do. So yeah, instead of eating like a raw gourmet that's really dense in fat. So that's it. I hope you guys got something out of this video. If you like it, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time. Ciao!